spontaneous with his verbalization, but just doesn't understand danger. Like he can't navigate the world on his own. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
That's what they're projecting my youngest to be, with the mild. I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
we can only hope not. But if it is, it is what it is. We still love him the same way.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. My son Jalen's the youngest of four, so he's definitely been kept me grounded in my later years. I tell people, and he's a handful, but he's a treat, and
That's
he's so
same.
funny. He makes me laugh every day.
That's what we say
Yeah.
about our. That's what we say about our 4-year-old. He's a lot, but boy, we love him
Yeah.
though.
Yeah. Where you located?
uh, Out of Florida by the Blue Jays spring training stadium in Dunedin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I live in Tampa, so I didn't know you were here in the Tampa area. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to catch up sometime then. We'll have to meet up when this pandemic ends.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Watch the game.
I didn't know you were living in the Tampa area either.
Oh, yeah.
I know
Yeah.
because I looked up your profile. I knew said you were here for a long time in the Tampa area, but I didn't say nothing that
Yeah.
you were still around in it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Nah, no plans to leave. I love it.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna get started, and we'll do this. Let's do this.
All righty.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 23 of Coffee Time with Byron and Dave. I'm your host, Byron. My co-host will soon be back. I don't know when yet, but he'll be back soon. But today we have former major leaguer, also living here in Tampa, did not know about. Awesome. And found out he has an autistic kid like mine. Wow, so he's been through the pain and hardships I have. But welcome to the show, Reggie Jefferson. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. It's good to be on. Talk a little baseball with you.
Awesome. That's what I like to hear, and that's what we're here for. So you played. You were a designated hitter from 91 to 99. When did you find out that you were going to be drafted? And did you know you were going to be drafted or undrafted?
Well, for me, it was a lot different than it is today. I mean, internet has changed this whole process, and there's so much information out. When I was coming along, I remember I actually went to a tryout over at Florida State University summer before my senior year. Went with a buddy, and there was a tryout with the Cincinnati Reds, and scout there at the time was Cam Bonifay, who later went on and was longtime general manager of the Pirates. But at the time, he was the area scout for the Cincinnati Reds, and he saw me there. And from there, he just started following me, through my senior year of high school and coming to my games. A lot of other teams came out and watched me, but he always was the guy that was the hottest on me, so to speak. You could tell that if he had his choice, I would be drafted by Cincinnati. And so kind of felt like I had a chance to be drafted because a lot of teams were coming out to watch me my senior year. But as we got through the process, Cam basically told me, he said, hey, if we get a chance, we're going to take you. He told me, it's so funny, he said, maybe in the second round, but if you're still there in the third round, they've told me they're going to take you. So, but that was the day before the draft. So you kind of go through the process and build up. But for me, it was just more of the scouts coming to the game. There was no internet. There was no projections, no mock drafts, like it is now.
Did you hear from any teams, or did you know right away you were going to be drafted by, I believe it looked like the Red Sox? Not the Red Sox, but the Reds?
Yeah, like I said, a lot of teams came out my senior year, and watched me play.
But you had no contact with them.
Well, the guys would talk to me, and someone, I can't remember who, advised me to just told me, said, hey, ask them what they think, because I had, I didn't have an advisor or anything, but someone says, hey, when these guys call, closer to the draft, ask them what they think about you. So when a guy would call me and say, hey, we're interested, Are you interested in going pro or going to college? Then I would ask, like, where do you see me being drafted? And I got a lot of varied opinions, but it was pretty obvious to me that Cam Bonifay and the Reds were the highest on me.
Now, you were a designated hitter. How hard is it to be a designated hitter? Because I know top of the line, there's a couple Hall of Famers that will be that. Edgar Martinez, David Ortiz, Frank Thomas, Jim Thome at times at the end of his career. How hard is it to be in that position and has a certified designated hitter and not play the field?
Well, it is. It's tough. I think it's a tough position because you better be able to hit. You're in there for that one and sole purpose, so you better be swinging the bat and be productive for your team. But more importantly, I think it's tough because as we all grow up in the game, we grow up playing a position. That's what you do in high school. That's what you do in college. If you go that route, minor leagues. So you're used to playing a position every day, and if you're not hitting, you think about your defense. When you start DHing, there is no defense to think about. So that can be good or bad. If you're going well, you can kind of get in the groove. But if you are not swinging the bat well, then you tend to really start thinking about your offense, and you feel like you're not helping the team at all because you're in there just for your bat. So it's a tough position. I can't count the number of times I had teammates say, "I don't know how you do it, man. I wouldn't be able to just hit and not play defense." But for me, I tell people that was a way for me to contribute to the team and to stay in the big leagues. So I embraced it and had some success.
So you debuted the year I was born, May 18th, 91, for the Reds. Take us through that. What was going through your head? And did you play the field that day?
My debut actually was a pinch hit at bat. And that was the day I got called up, and I'll never forget it because I remember walking down the tunnel, and for whatever reason, what popped in my mind was, man, no one will ever be able to say I didn't make it, because a lot of times when you sign out of high school, there's a lot of naysayers that say, wow, you should go to college first, or you're not going to make it. It's tough to make it to the big leagues. And I just remember that popping in my head walking down the tunnel, that I've made it to the big leagues. And whether I stay here one day or 1,000 days, I'll always be able to say I played in the big leagues, and not many people can do that. So that kind of went through my head that night. I pinch hit and walked. Then the next day I got to start at first base. Again, remember it like it was yesterday. The major things, of course, I remember I struck out my first two at-bats, and then my third at-bat, I hit a home run off of a pretty good pitcher at the time, a guy named Andy Bennis. So my first hit in the big leagues was a home run. So you don't forget that. Yeah, and it was great. I mean, when you grow up playing the game like most kids do, and you dream of being a big leaguer, you just don't know if it'll ever happen. I don't care if you're a first-round pick or a 30th rounder. You don't know.
Right.
And so when you go out to the minor leagues and you start competing, to actually get there that first day, man, it's like nothing else. It's an awesome day.
Now, did you have goosebumps, and did you have like nervousness when you were facing off against that pitcher, when you came up to the plate, your first at bat?
You're walking out to a major league ballpark for the first time. I don't care what anybody says. You look around, and if you're not nervous, then you got to be in the minority on that one. I remember being nervous, and really having to wind myself down and calm myself down and just relax and play this game that you've played your whole life.
So now I see in 93 in the winter, you were traded to Seattle. You were at Cleveland at the time for shortstop Omar Vizquel. Take us through that trade. Did you know you were going to be traded for a future Hall of Famer?
No, and I always laugh whenever I meet someone from Cleveland and they recognize me. I say, you guys, the Cleveland fans should always love me because I'm the reason, or part of the reason, that they got Omar Vizquel. So, and they always get a big kick out of that and laugh. And no, it was one of those things that I played in Cleveland for parts of 3 years, and Just never really established myself. I had a bad arm injury one year, and then in '93 I came back and was there the entire season, but just never played regularly, never got in the groove hitting. And that's the big leagues. You know, if you don't do it, you're subject to be traded. And I remember, I think that winter the Mets were looking to trade. I don't know if it was Saberhagen. They were looking to trade Saberhagen, and I went to Puerto Rico just to get some extra at bats because I hadn't played much that year in the big leagues. And I remember my agent telling me that the Mets came to Puerto Rico to watch me play, and I wasn't hitting well. You know, I just wasn't hitting well. And he said that the report he got back that they just weren't going to pull that trade with Saberhagen because I just, you know, I don't know. They had other people in the trade. It wasn't going to be me straight up, but that I just wasn't playing well. And I was fortunate that Lou Piniella had managed me in Cincinnati when I was coming up, and he'd seen me play really well. So they had made the move. They weren't going to keep Vizquel because they had a guy named Alex Rodriguez coming up, and Vizquel was about to make some money, I think. And so they traded for myself and Felix Fermin to kind of bridge that gap until Alex Rodriguez was ready. And Lou had seen me play well in Cincinnati. I'd really swung the bat well coming up there as a prospect and in big league camp. So he knew me. But I hadn't even thought about Seattle. No one had said that to me or you know, intimated that I was getting traded there. I didn't think I'd be back in Cleveland. But just got a call one day saying that I was part of a trade to Seattle, and it actually turned my career around because getting there again with Lou, he was kind of able to help me make some adjustments to my swing and get back on track. And then the next 5-6 years, I played well.
Now, take us through the being traded as a player. Does that, in your mindset, does that suck? Or how is that in a player's mindset being traded?
Oh, the first time it sucks, like you said, because, you know, when I was drafted by Cincinnati, you know, you dream of playing for that team because they draft you, and every kid thinks that that's what's going to happen. You got drafted by Cincinnati, so you're going to go through their farm system, make the big league club, and stay there for your entire career. So the first time it's a big shock, you know, when you get traded. But then after that, you realize that it's a good thing that regardless of how the trade unfolds, who you get traded for, if someone's trading for you, that means they want you. And so now that means opportunity. So after the first time, then you realize that getting traded is a great opportunity, and you keep it moving. You go to that new club and you try to get acclimated and start playing. And you get over it after that first time. And I think most players would agree with that.
Now, I see you were given the nickname The Miracle by the Red Sox fans. Take us through that. What happened? Why do you get that nickname when you were with them?
Oh, man, I think I've done a lot of interviews. I really don't do a ton of interviews, but it seems like I've done about 5 or 6 in the past 3 months. And everyone asks me that. So I know it's on Wikipedia. I had no idea that I had that nickname. I don't know if someone put that on Wikipedia, or maybe they did call me that because I was a really good pinch hitter and I got some big hits in Boston. But it was funny. I had a client. His mom once said to me, and I had no idea, and out of the blue, she says, "Why did they call you the Miracle?" And I thought she was joking. And I was like, "What?" And she said, "They call you the Miracle." And I tried to tell her, I said, "No, that's not true. No one ever called me that." I had no idea where she had gotten it from. And she was like, "Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did." And I said, "I've never heard that before." And so then I figured it had to be on the internet because she really believed it. But when I was in Boston, I don't remember that name at all. I mean, again, Boston fans are great. I had a good experience there, but people ask me that now, and I just don't know. Maybe they did, but I always make the joke. I said I had a lot of nicknames, but none was that nice, so I'll take it.
So you said you had memorable hits. Why they called you that, obviously. So what hits do you remember that you remember the most that they may have given you that name?
Oh, no. I mean, For me, I think it was one that always stands out for me. I was on Father's Day. I think in '96, I hit a walk off of Mike Henneman, and we had been losing that game like I think 11-3 to the Rangers, and we just kept chipping away. Kenny Hill, who I talk to a lot now, started that game and was shutting us down, and he came out and we started chipping away, and finally, I think in the bottom of the ninth, we had two guys on, and I hit a walk-off homer off of Henneman. So I always remember that because my father was so instrumental in me playing baseball. So to do that on Father's Day and call him was a huge thrill. I mean, I think there were so many times I remember coming to bat late innings and just the entire place yelling Reggie, because of the Red Sox, the Yankees being a big rival, and then the Yankees always did that with Reggie Jackson. So I thought the Red Sox fans just got a kick out of being able to do that with one of their own players. So that was always got me jacked up in those situations when it was really clutch and the whole place screaming your name. There's nothing like it in sports, man. To have 35,000 people screaming your name at one time. And I'm proud to say I think I came through in a lot of those cases. So I remember that. I mean, Boston's just a great place to play because the Red Sox are their team. There's a lot of history there. Summertime in Fenway Park, it's the place to be. Fans love it. And as a player, I always tell guys, I think everyone should experience playing in a high level market like Boston at least 1 year because I think it brings out the best in you.
Now, I'm seeing before you retired, you were left off the playoff roster in '99. Were you able to go into another postseason? Or would that have been your first postseason of your career?
No, I played in '95. My first year with Boston, we went to the postseason.
How far did you guys go?
We lost in the first round to Cleveland that year.
Ooh.
And that was the series. I think when Albert Bell hit the home run off us, and we checked his bat because early in the year he had gotten caught. And he flexed his muscle in the dugout. They always show that in response to our manager. But then they went on that year to go to the World Series. And I think they lost to the Braves that year.
They did.
They beat us in the first round. And then in '99 we got back and like you said, that was my last year in Boston.
In over 680 games throughout your 9 seasons, you posted a batting average of over 300. That's honestly ridiculous. Not many players ever get that and establish that. I think it's on the Hall of Fame, even though then you're not going to, unfortunately, because of the games you played. I think that's Hall of Fame worthy, don't you? Because not many people can say they hit 300 and above throughout their career.
Yeah, no, I'm very proud of that. I mean, I don't think it's Hall of Fame worthy, of course, because there was times when I was injured or times when I didn't play. But I'm very proud of it because I look at it the opposite. That I always kind of looked at myself as the underdog. I came up as a really high prospect, but again, I had some injuries that derailed me early. Then things didn't go well for me in Cleveland at all. And I had to go to Seattle and find my way, and I was able to have a good year there. And then went to Boston as kind of just a guy that the general manager and the manager liked. They didn't even have a spot for me in Boston when I went there. They had Mo Vaughn at first base, Canseco was the DH, and so it was kind of like, wow, I'm my back's against the wall, and that's how I looked at it, And I went in there, and if it was a pinch hit or if it was a spot start, I went after it, man, with everything I had, and I was going to find my way, and I did. And so, for me, I'm very proud of that average. I think I earned it because I tell people I couldn't run, so every hit I got was a real hit. and again, to play at the big league level and to succeed, it's not easy, man. I don't care what anybody says.
I agree.
I think sometimes myself watching, I think is easy, because that's fun. Baseball's a game to second guess. That's why you want to be a fan of baseball because you can second guess 10 things in any game. Um, but I know it's not easy to be a big leaguer and to get there. So I appreciate what I did. Every player wants to do more. If you don't, you're just not. You're not competitive, and all big leaguers are competitive. So you can do more. But I've talked to great players. In my mind, they were great, and they talk about what they could do more. So it is what it is. I enjoyed it, and it was a lot of fun.
So you served, after your playing career, you served as a player agent. Tell us about that. What goes on into that role, and what do you normally do as a player agent?
Well, really, you represent major players. I work with a company, Rental Sports Management. We're strictly baseball, and we handle everything from players' contracts to needs of endorsements, anything that's going on in their lives. Baseball wise, we're involved, and sometimes non-baseball things. So we represent clients, and it's from top to bottom. I in the course of a week, I tell people I could watch a high school game or I could be in a major league game, because you're always looking for the next major league player to that'll come behind the current crop, because players can only play for so long. So it's really all things baseball representation, taking care of players and their needs. Having played the game like I have, I probably am more opinionated or hands-on about the actual performance of a player, just because they know that I know what I'm talking about, and I can kind of give some insight. So I enjoy it. I've been doing it now for a while, and it's kind of like, it gives me that reason to keep going every day and keep striving to be better at that job.
Any big names that you've had come along that you've represented?
Oh, I mean, well, at Reynolds, we do everything as a company, and we've represented some good guys. I mean, even before I joined the company, guys like Torrey Hunter, the Upton brothers, currently now Kevin Kiermaier is a client, Tim Anderson. So we've got some good players out there, and some guys that I've brought along from, having a one-on-one relationship. A guy like Malik Smith, who I'm sure played with the Rays.
Yep.
Roman Quinn, who's with the Phillies now. So it's been some good young players that I've had a chance to see, and I love it because Nico Goodrum with the Tigers, of course, a pretty good young player. I like it because I saw those guys when they were in the 11th and 12th grade, and you see where they're coming from, and now to see them as grown men playing in the big leagues, it's a lot of fun.
So I see one year you played for the Seibu Lions in the Japanese League. How much different is it over there compared to over here, or is the game the same?
Oh, I think it's really different. I mean, I tell people all the time, they have great fans. I think the fans maybe are more fanatical than they are here. They love baseball in Japan. But the baseball is just different. I mean, it's a different culture. The players are different. That's why they bring American guys over. They don't typically have the bigger, stronger guys over there for hitting, so they want to bring in guys. But the pitching is tough. I played for a long time, and I tell people there's a lot of pitchers in Japan pitching the major leagues, a ton of guys, because they know what they're doing. And I don't think it's as many position players that can play in the majors, but the pitching is just as good. But the game is a lot of fun. It's a great experience I can draw on now, having done it, that I know what it's like to go over to a foreign country when I talk to clients. But it's a good game. They play hard, and I'm sure it's probably, in the years that since I've been over there, it's probably even easier for a guy to go over and adapt to the culture because of technology.
So now I'm going to take you through the teams you play for. You already went through the Red Sox, your favorite moment with them. What's your favorite moment besides your debut that you had with the Cincinnati Reds?
Oh, wow. I think besides the debut, I have to say hitting my first home run there was huge. That had to be the number one in the big leagues because I was there for such a short time. I mean, I came through their farm system, so I have a lot of minor league memories that are outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
But in the big leagues, was hitting that first home run off of Andy Bennis and in Riverfront Stadium. That's dating myself, but that's where it was, and that was the biggest moment there with Cincinnati.
And besides the trade with Cleveland to Seattle, your time in Cleveland, what do you remember about being there?
Oh, the great young players that I got to play with there. It was before they built Jacobs Field, and we were in the old stadium. And at that time, Cleveland, John Hart was rebuilding the team, the Major League club, and all the established major leaguers he traded them for prospects, just traded them. He brought in guys like Sandy Alomar and Carlos Baerga before I got there, and he traded for Kenny Lofton. He traded for Mark Whitten and Glenn Hill, and it was just a lot of young talent there when I went there. And I just remember, most of us at the time were trying to make our way, and some guys ended up having some great careers off of that team, and we were losing a lot when I was there, but it was obvious that there was just a lot of talent in that locker room. So that's what I remember most about Cleveland. I actually love the city of Cleveland. People always, if you're not from Cleveland, people have things to say, but out of all the cities I played in, that was my favorite city that I played in. Now, baseball, I played for winning teams in other places, but I love the city of Cleveland, so that was a good experience.
And what about your time with the Mariners in '94?
Again, I think it's probably more player-related and being able to play with Griffey Jr. out there. I tell people again, and it's pretty obvious, he was the best player that I ever played with. So gifted and talented. Playing with a guy like Randy Johnson and seeing him go out there every fifth day was special. Seeing two all-time greats on one team, not to mention Edgar Martinez was on that team, and hadn't really hit his stride as a DH, but was still recognized as a really good hitter at that time. So for me, with Seattle, again, it was more about playing with some really good players, and you learn from those guys. The time I spent in Cleveland, time I spent in Seattle, you're young. I was young at the time, but I got to watch some really great players, and it impacted me. And I remember in Seattle playing with Goose Gossage, and he was at the end of his career, of course, but man, I can remember being a 10-year-old and my dad taking me to Atlanta to watch the Braves, and Goose Gossage was with the Padres in his heyday. And I watched him with the Yankees, but then to see him pitch in the game against the Braves one night, and then actually be a teammate with the guy, that blew me away, and I remember once him telling me a lot of stories about Billy Martin, and man, I just couldn't get enough of that stuff, man, because Goose, man, even at that time, he was over 40 and he was intense. And I love that stuff, man. It just taught me that, hey, regardless, if you're going to play in the big leagues, you got to bring it.
So do you share with the audience, do you have a memorable story throughout your career, either it be off or on the field, a most memorable story that you can share with us?
Oh, man, I'll tell you, a lot of things pop in my mind now that's really funny. The game is crazy, but I remember Albert Bell, and I tell the story to people from time to time, and they laugh. And I loved Albert Bell because
he was a character. He was a character.
Unbelievable talent. But I always remember one story that wasn't that good about him, but I was on deck, and we were playing the Tigers, and it was a base hit, and I remember a guy named Matt Noakes was catching, and Matt Noakes was out in front of the plate, and the throw was coming from right field, and it wasn't going to be a close play. And I had my arms up in the air telling Albert, stand up. You have a signal when you do with your arms to tell them, so they can see you. They don't have to slide. And Albert was just so intense. He just zeroed in on Matty Noakes. And Noakes never took his mask off, though, because he didn't think it was going to be a play. And Albert just barreled into him. really for no reason. He could have just slid on the ground or just ran through home plate. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but Notes didn't take his mask off. And I don't know if Albert just didn't realize it or he was just intent on he was going to bury the guy. And when Albert rolled over, there was blood coming all out of his mouth, and he lost his 2 front teeth. and I just kept getting out of my mind, like, I told him just to stand up. There was no play. But he just tried. He was going to kill Notes, and I don't know. He's got to remember because he lost his teeth. But that was one of the funniest things I ever saw in my life, man, on a baseball field. I just couldn't believe that he did that.
I love that. I love that story.
Yeah.
So you played, unfortunately, in the era of steroids. Now, I gotta ask you, do you think it helped or hurt the game?
Oh, without a doubt, it hurt the game. I mean, I think we lost some fans after the strike, and then guys doing that brought fans back to the game. So I think economically it probably helped the game, but it hurt the game in general. I think just anytime it's not an even playing field, it's not a good thing. It just I just believe that that everyone should be playing by the same rules, and we know guys try to get an edge in sports, and that's part of it, but I think this was something that just got way out of hand and no one did anything about it. And it's a shame because now they try to police who gets in the Hall of Fame and who doesn't get in. And it's not fair because I know there's guys in the Hall of Fame that did it.
Yeah.
So now, my opinion is you just got to let everybody in who's got the numbers. And we all know what it was. But to sit here and try to say this guy gets in because he got caught, and this guy got in, no one ever questioned him. That's not fair. The whole era was tainted. I mean, and I played in that, and I know it. But I always tell people, I didn't realize how bad it was when I played. I knew it was bad, but not as bad as it ended up, being revealed. But I always feel good. I said, you know what? Every home run I hit in the big leagues, I know I hit it. No one helped me, and no substance helped me. So. It's crazy, that the game went through that. But no, I think it hurt the game without a doubt.
Now, at the time you were playing, I had somebody on that actually had to take him because of injury to help come back with injury. Now, did you ever think about it when you were injured, you had to take it, or your doctor tell you had to take it to come back? Did that ever go through your mind?
No. It never did. My injuries were like more of stress fracture injury in my back that recurred 2 or 3 times. And I don't think steroids would have helped me. Maybe it would have, but I never even thought about it. Because again, at that time, it was just one of those things. I think I just, I thought it was wrong. So if I thought something was wrong, I wasn't necessarily going to do it. Not to say that I'm a perfect person. I mean, and I made a lot of mistakes in my life like we all do. But when it came to baseball, that never crossed my mind. I just thought about just going out and playing the game the right way. And sometimes, you get a little bitter because, a lot of these guys I broke in with and I knew what type of player they were. And then they start going leaps and bounds ahead of you. It kind of, it hurts because you're going, wow, I mean, how does this guy put up these numbers when we came in the same? And I know how hard I was working. So it had to be something going on. And so that part was tough. But honestly, I just never thought about doing it. I just wanted to play the game. And what I got out of it is what I got.
What pitchers did you hit off the most, and what pitchers gave you the most fits? What was your worst record against them?
I think, and again, I think I'll say this, start by saying it's an individual thing. I mean, there were some guys that I hit well that were really good pitchers, and it just seemed like I just saw the ball. I think their style maybe matched up with me, being able to hit the ball all over the park. I had success, I think, against Paul Quantrill, who was a really good relief pitcher in my day. Danny, I think when I broke in, Danny Darwin, I hit him pretty well. a guy Ricky Bonus who had a good career. And then I remember a guy. Jose Lima, who had great years in Houston, but when he was younger with Detroit, I think I hit him pretty good, and I was glad I didn't get to see him when he went to Houston. But guys that I didn't hit, like I couldn't touch Kevin Apier. I just couldn't. And I think I told someone that once, and they looked it up, and I think I was something like maybe 2 for 16 with like 9.
You ain't the only one I've had on that had problems with him. I heard he was a good pitcher.
Yeah, he was really good. I mean, you're talking about an all-star pitcher. Don't get me wrong, but I just could not see the ball off of him. He was throwing a pitch that I thought was a changeup or a split, and guys were saying, no, that's a slider. And I'd never seen a slider like that. It drove me crazy. And I just wasn't going to hit the guy. I mean, it was unbelievable, man. It was guys like that, Dennis Martinez and Hershiser with the Indians, that I remember I was struggling so bad once off of Hershiser. He was sinking the ball. So that Kevin Mitchell I was playing with, and Kevin Mitchell swung a 36-ounce bat. And I just told him, I said, man, let me borrow your bat for this at bat. I can't stay back on this guy. And I just remember swinging and hit a bullet in the left field because the bat was so heavy. And since then, when I'd face Hershiser, I'd take that Kevin Mitchell's bat up there. But it's just a matchup thing. Some guys you hit, of course, Randy Johnson, but I mean, nobody was hitting that guy. And other guys, you see them well. I never felt like I hit David Cone that great, but I had some big home runs off of him. And I remember my buddy Mark Whitten telling me once when he played with Cone that, Cone told him, said, hey, that guy wears me out, man. And but I never felt like I hit him well, man, because he was filthy. He's one of the best pitchers that I ever had the honor of facing, is what I thought of David Cone. But that's the fun part, man. It's just competing against those guys. And but I think for me, Kevin Apier just stands out. I just could not hit the guy.
How far close did you come to ever making an All-Star appearance?
Maybe in 97. In 96, I had that breakout year, hit really well. And then in 97, I think it was having a really good first half and maybe had a shot. But we had a guy named Nomar Garcia-Parr that was having a little bit better year. He was Rookie of the Year. And I don't think we were playing that great. So we were only going to get 1 or 2 guys. And nobody got there. So I don't know how realistic it was, but I was playing pretty well.
Now, take us through the art of hitting. Tell the audience, how hard is it to square up a ball when you're in the batter's box? I personally can't say nothing because I only managed through Little League because I knew I couldn't do it. That's how hard it was for me. I just, for somewhat reason, couldn't see the ball. But tell the audience how hard it is to square up on the ball when you're right there in the batter's box, or know what's going to be thrown by the pitcher.
Well, I think it's one of those things that you got to be born with a certain level of hand-eye coordination to be a good hitter, especially we're talking about professional levels. Because you're sitting there 60 feet, 6 inches away, a guy throwing the ball 90, 95 miles an hour. You have a second to make a decision. And sometimes you swing at bad pitches because it happens so fast. I think the biggest thing is you have to put a ton of work into it. I play golf now, and I get mad with myself, but I always remind myself that every day in the major leagues, I would hit, an hour, 2 hours a day just for 4 at-bats at night. And so I would, golf is just as difficult, to a certain degree. So it's tough to hit, and the most you could be going great and all of a sudden have a couple balls caught on you and you lose that mojo, and then you lose your timing, and you got to fight to get it back. So that's the battle with hitting is maintaining that rhythm, the timing. And when you get locked in, you want to just kind of repeat it and stay there, because it's a tough thing to do. To hit. So, and there's no secret to it. I mean, it's just, you got to work. You have to work on your swing. You have to put the time in. And that's how you do it. That's it.
Now, when you got on base, I asked this to one of my previous guests that I had. I want to know from you if you had any too. When you got on base to the first baseman, I know how much they love to talk to the hitters when they get on base. Did you have any memorable moments from a first baseman talk to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, guys, you get some guys that talk a ton. Some don't say much. But my most memorable story is not wasn't more so of talking. I remember my rookie year, I was playing first base in Yankee Stadium, and Don Mattingly got on base. And when it's runners on first and second, you don't hold the guy on. Of course, you play behind him. And I was playing behind Mattingly, and when the pitch was made, the hitter normally takes his shuffles off towards second base. Well, Mattingly wouldn't move, and he was getting in the way. And a couple pitches were made, and I was like, "What is he doing?" And um, and I would try to field, and then he started looking back at me, and he was purposely blocking me. I couldn't believe it. I had never seen that in my life through little league, minor leagues, a guy doing that. And then when I hit the next time and I got on base, and he says, "Hey Reggie, man, I wasn't playing around. That's just how I play, man. I'm trying to get every edge that I can on you, and I'm not gonna let you see that ball if I could help it." And again, I loved Don Mattingly growing up. That was one of my guys in high school that I really followed, and great, was the top hitter at that time. But just to hear that from him was, it still sticks in my mind to this day that he thought enough to try to block me from seeing the ball when it was hit. Something I would never do, but it shows the competitiveness of Mattingly.
Now, do you have any current relationships with any of the former players you played against or any former teammates? Do you still talk to a lot of them?
Well, living here in Tampa, you see a lot of the guys that live here, and you run into them from time to time. So that part's good. Working in the game as an agent, of course, I run into guys when I go to games, or so I get to see a lot of guys. But in Boston, Troy O'Leary was my best friend on the team. He's in Arizona, so whenever I go out there, I look him up, and we sit around and laugh, and so it's great to stay in touch with those guys. Alex Cole, who I played with in Cleveland, is a great friend now. We both love Florida State football, so we bond over that. I just a coincidence. I talked to Jerry Brown a week ago. The governor, played together in Cleveland. He runs a facility in Dallas, trains kids, and he called me up out of the blue and just said that he heard that I was working with a kid out there that he knew. And so being in the game like I am, I still run into guys everywhere. So that's the great part about it.
So now you mentioned that, I gotta ask you, after your playing career, did you ever, because I saw you briefly coach, which is fine and that, but did you ever think about announcing or running institution to help kids, train them or whatever, just like your buddy's doing? Did that ever come through your mind?
Oh yeah, it all did. I remember doing I did some Florida State League games here on TV that for a local Bright House when they first started, and enjoyed it. It was nice. I enjoyed that. I coached at college level one year, so enjoyed the kids. But to me, the business side was my ultimate goal, and I kind of did some other things until I was able to maneuver and get to where I'm at. So who knows what the future holds, of course, but I like what I'm doing now, and I plan to do this for a while. But you think about all of those things because, as you can tell, I'm a baseball guy. So it was probably pretty obvious that I would do something in the game.
Now, here's a tough one. I'm going to see if you remember this. Your final home run. Who were you facing, and who was the pitcher you got it off of? And what stadium?
Wow, that is tough. I have no idea. I'm not even going to lie on that one. I don't remember. I just know that last year with Boston, I wasn't playing a ton, and I knew that if Tim Hudson was a rookie, if Tim Hudson was pitching or Roger Clemens, then I knew I was getting him. But I don't remember who. I don't remember that one. You got to help me with that one.
Now, take us through that rivalry, because I know with you playing with the Red Sox, you were part of that rivalry with the Yankees. How bitter and bad was that rivalry?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was bad. I tell people to get them to understand. I say it's like Florida versus Florida State football for 4 straight days or 3 straight days. When I was there, I mean, it was intense, man. The players wanted to beat each other. The fans were just brutal. I mean, it was fun just to go out in BP and in the outfield in Yankee Stadium just to listen to the stuff they would say to you, and you get a big kick out of it. But it was intense, man. I mean, the two teams really want to beat each other. The fans don't like each other. I have one story I remember. We played the Yankees the last series of the year, and I was that guy that, when the season was over, if it wasn't any playoffs, I'd get on a plane that night and fly back home to Florida. I'd have everything wrapped up, and it was time to go home. Family had already left a month ago, so it was just boom, I'm getting on a plane and I'm out. And we played the Yankees in the series, and I'm walking to my cab, and I'll walk by like a father and son in a fight with two other guys, and they're fist fighting, just scrapping, Yankee fans and Red Sox fans. And I remember getting in the cab going, now I played in the game, and I'm headed home now, and these people are here fighting over this series. But it's intense, man. It is intense.
Now, in your final year with the Red Sox, did you play against the then Devil Rays? And did you know that I think they could have been a good team, only if they had pitching, because you had McGriff, Boggs, Canseco, a young CC up with them at the time, because I think he debuted in '99 after being drafted. He was one that, I mean, it was a who's who on that team. Did you face any of those? Did you have a chance to see any of those guys when you played the Devil Rays?
Oh yeah, and I remember because at that time I had moved to Tampa. I'd started making that my all-season home, so it was a big deal of coming back to Tampa. Family would come down, of course, from Tallahassee, where I was from. But that was like coming home. I lived there in the off-season, sleep in my own bed, and they did. They had some good hitters on that team. Greg Vaughn, I don't know if you mentioned him, but
Greg Vaughn,
Greg Vaughn was there, and Vinny Castilla.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lineup, man, and. But of course, the expansion team, they had a lot of work to do as far as putting the whole thing together. But it was fun coming back to the Trop and playing there. Now I've watched so many games there, living here in Tampa. But definitely remember that.
Yeah, they just couldn't get pitching. I know that. That was their problem. How was it?
Yeah.
How was it playing in that stadium? Because I've heard from numerous amount of people, it sucks.
Yeah. No, I mean. For me, because I was home, it was like, nothing could be bad. I'm back at the house tonight, and but again, I that's one thing that I'm almost tired of wishing for. But I wish they would get a stadium here, a new stadium over in Tampa, because there's a lot of good baseball fans here, and the team has done well. And it's not the best venue, of course, but I mean, for what they do a good job with the clubhouse guys. There are always great, and they do what they can. But the facility, no, I mean, it's definitely not they're going to win any awards. And I just hope that they do get a stadium here. But again, after a while, you kind of get tired of hearing about it.
Yeah, I was just about to get into that with you because yes, you said you live here and you're obviously a Rays fan like I am. Do you think why the fans aren't coming out and supporting the team, even though there is a big fan base, like you said, because of the TV deal that we have with Bally Sports and all that?
Yeah.
Do you think it's because of what the damn owner is and what of all the crap he talks that he says he wants to stay here, but nothing gets done? He keeps switching out players that fans like. Do you think that's the reason why fans do not come out to the games? And he blames the fans for that.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, because you don't get a chance to latch on to a player. If you do, the player leaves. I think the biggest problem is the location of the stadium for me. I think, and the stadium itself. I think those are the two biggest issues. The majority of the population lives in North Tampa. You can pull from Orlando if you got a little bit closer, I think, Lakeland. I just think that location is going to be tough to get people to commute over there during the week. I think you come to Tampa, you're going to draw fans on the weekend, and I think your numbers would go up during the week just by the location, and you got a winning team in a new stadium. So will they ever draw consistently like the Red Sox or Yankees? I doubt it because there's so much to do down here in Florida. But you could get fans to go to games, and you can market the club. I mean, the Lightning have shown that, on the hockey side, with ownership that gets strong behind it and builds it. And like you said, does some PR to pull fans in instead of alienating them. So, again, I wish they would come to Tampa, but I think there are a multitude of things. I don't put it all on the owner, of course. I just think that if we could somehow get a stadium in Tampa, then you would see a change.
What pissed me off, and I'm sure it probably did you as well, this whole talk with the whole Montreal BS. This is another reason, too, why fans hate the owner.
Yeah.
What's your take on that? How stupid is that, to be honest?
It's very, and I'll just say it in my opinion. That's my opinion, of course. Having played this game, I mean, I just don't know how you could tell guys we're going to play half a season here and half a season somewhere else. It's too hard trying to move the organization. The players are not going to commit to your community because they're like, we're two different places during the year. It's just, I think it's a bad idea. They have their reasons for doing it, and we'll eventually see, of course. But I just hate for that stuff to even come up because, I just think that it's an insult to the game of baseball and shouldn't do it.
So let's talk a little about today's current game. I gotta ask you, you went through the lockout of 94. Do you feel, since last year was a blip into that, with the 60 games, the owners fighting against the players' union, do you see that happening again, or do you see somebody coming to an agreement? Because I know the bargaining agreement is coming up, I believe, at the end of this year.
Well, I hope it doesn't because, again, having gone through that 94 strike, it's just not good for the game. And we lost a lot of people then, like we talked about earlier. Now, who knows what's going to happen? I've kind of, again, I get a unique look to being an agent. Again, I'm not negotiating for the union or anything like that. But I think that it could possibly be a strike. It always is that threat. But again, I hope that they learn from previous cases and that they come to some agreement and just make the game, better for the fans, and the players. The baseball's good. I mean, I'm really enjoying the season this year. I know offense is down, so people are complaining about it, but there's some really good players, man, playing right now, and it's fun watching it, seeing fans back in the stands. So I hope we don't have a work stoppage. I think it'd be the worst thing, but I do, as an agent, I think some things do need to change in the economic structure because I think the owners have kind of figured out where a player's value is and when he is most valuable to the club. So I think players should be paid sooner. Because if you're going to pay me through my prime or you're going to tell me you don't want to pay me past my prime, then give me a fair contract during my prime. And I don't think that hurts anybody because owners are saying we want to pay you for what you're giving us at the time. So then I think players would be open to, as a younger player, saying, okay, lock me in sooner and pay me during my prime instead of I think the days of 6 years to free agency are just – that's so outdated now, and no other sport does that. Baseball has arbitration, but I just think it's outdated, and the clubs have kind of twisted the system to where they know it's totally in their favor. And I think players should be free agents at a sooner, younger age of service time, and pay them through their prime. That's fine because you're getting value.
Yeah.
I don't think a club would mind paying Mike Trout through his prime, or Garrett Cole, or any young player. So I think it's a win-win for both sides. I'm sorry, but to get them to see that's above my pay grade.
Right, I agree with you. So we've got about 6 minutes left. I've got 2 questions if you can answer them real quick. I always ask this to every guest I have. I know it's early, but World Series, who you got winning? What team's in it?
Oh wow. I'm going to go with the Dodgers, of course. I just think in the National League, they're just they're strong, and they got the guys that have been there. Of course, you add Trevor Bauer, and you add Mookie Betts last year. I think just adding Mookie Betts put them over the hump because he was that guy they were missing, that athletic spark plug player that you need.
Yeah.
So without a doubt, the Dodgers. And then in the American League, it's funny. I think it's really too early to tell over there, but the Astros have been playing really well. I think if their pitching can hold up, I'd give them the edge right now. And I rag on my Yankee friends because being a former Red Sox and then living here in Tampa. But it's hard to count them out if they make the right moves because they've got the makings of a good club. I just think they've neglected a few parts over the last couple of years that's hurting them. But if they make a couple moves and then the Yankees will be right there. I hate to say it, but they will be.
And now, real quick, the last one I have. How do you feel about? Does this help the game now? The West Coast teams, the Dodgers and the Padres, that rivalry. How does that make you feel as a former player? Does it like it? Does it bring back the rivalry that you had with the Yankees? I mean, what's that like?
Oh, it's great because whenever you can have rivalries or whenever team tries to win it all, it's good for baseball. With the Padres saying we got some really great players. We've built a terrific farm system. We're trying to win it all. That's great for the game. We need more teams to do that. And I think that baseball would be better for it. So I think it's a great thing and it's probably the number one storyline, going into this season is that rivalry. And it's going to be fun to watch those games when they hook up. So no, I think that's great for the game. And I wish more teams would hurry up and get to that point where they can go out and spend. We got all these teams that are with these 5-year plans, and it's been over 5 years. So, you'd like to see them get back in competitive mode because to me, and again, going a little further, I think that's the problem with the game is that you just aren't. I love the game, but they aren't competitive teams out there. And I watch a lot of baseball, and I'm seeing teams struggle to put 3 really good outfielders on the field every night, or fill out the rotation. The pitching to me is coming along, and that's good. I think the position players, and I think it starts with the draft. They're just not drafting talented, tooled out players that are going to be able to withstand at the major league level. You're seeing a shift in drafting college performers, and I think now you're seeing it. You don't have those hitters in the big leagues because they're not going to hit in the big leagues. They don't have the skill set that we talked about earlier. And that's an issue. But no, I love the rivalries. I love the game. But, again, we always, like I said, what's good about baseball, we all got an opinion.
That's right.
And that's what's great. Yeah.
That's right. Well, I do thank you for your time. I'm glad you actually allowed me to interview you because, like you said, you don't do many. So I'm actually honored that you allowed me to interview you. I appreciate it. And hey, now that I found out you're in Tampa, we gotta meet sometime when this pandemic's fully over.
Definitely, man. I get out and watch some games. So hit me up. Maybe we can talk a little baseball at a game sometime.
Yeah, that's definitely. I'm looking forward to that. Definitely.
Okay.
But I thank you again. I appreciate it. I'll stay in touch. I'll send you the episode like I told you I would. It's also on YouTube. I'll send you that to have you check it out too if you want.
Great.
And yeah, and like I said last night, if you know anybody, please have them follow me on Twitter, because I'm always looking for more interviews. I love hearing stories like yours and everybody else. That's why I started this. So it was just an honor.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good one, man. I got to get
You
back
too.
to work. I got a conference
You
call.
too.
That I
All right. Get back to work. Thanks again. I'll
All
stay in
right.
touch. All right.
All right. Talk to you later.
Got it. All right. Bye.